You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of Twilight Zone reviews. A journey into a wondrous land of intoxication where a father, son, and guest drink and retell episodes of the Twilight Zone.
There is a fifth dimension.
Stay tuned because your next stop is the Highlight Zone After Hours.
The Twilight Zone.
Welcome to another episode of the Highlight Zone After Hours, the show where we, my dad and I, host with a guest, drink and retell episodes of the Twilight Zone in 5 minutes or less. And if we don't, we take shots. As you can see, we got the tequila out here today. I'm one of your two hosts, Steve.
I'm Kelly.
And then we have the narrator, Balinksi. Andy, what's
Hello,
up, buddy?
everybody. I'm great.
Good. Glad you're here.
I'm so excited to be here.
We have 3 episodes we're going over today. We're all going to cover one, but I wanted to say something real quick, just in case you didn't notice. One of our highest viewed shows is the episode where we did talking about Severance, and it's my favorite show, and it just ended. The season 2 just ended the other day, and I want to make sure everyone realizes it wasn't just a stretch. In the penultimate finale episode, so not the last one, but the one before, there's a section where Miss Cobell literally gives a Twilight Zone obscure code to the person at the place. I'm not going to spoil it in case you haven't gotten there, but if you're seeing the part where they're going into the birthing center, listen to what Miss Cobell says. She's literally doing the freaking, what is the name of that episode? The Mannequin. She's quoting the Mannequin in a really weird way. I told you that the Twilight Zone is heavily influenced, is influenced by Severance. It's
How many
really
times
good.
have you and I said that since we started doing
Tons.
this, that all of a sudden, out of obscure locations and time sets, the Twilight Zone is making a resurgence in all sorts of media, all over the place.
It is, and
so
we did a whole show about this, but just in case anyone thought we were stretching, definitely not. They made a reference to it in the episode. Freaking
The
good
Highlight
show.
Zone is going to be spearheading that as well.
Absolutely.
That resurgence.
Absolutely.
I think the Highlight Zone is spearheading it already.
All right, we're going to launch right into this. Each of us are going to go through. We're going to start with you, sir. He is covering season 3, episode 5, which is called A Game of Pool, which was aired on October 13th, 1961. Written by George Clayton Johnson and Rod Serling and directed by Buzz Kulick. But before we get in there, Andy, the narrator, Balinksi, give us his Rod Serling's intro narration.
Jesse Cardiff, pool shark, the best on Randolph Street, who will soon learn that trying to be the best at anything carries its own special risks in or out of the Twilight Zone.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right. Dad.
Give me the clock.
Oh, you think I'm not ready to give you the clock? I am
All
ready,
right.
baby.
Now, you know how
Need the
close
clock.
I always have been on the 5 minutes. I'm pretty damn good on this thing.
Well, this is the thing that we talked about last time.
I
is
may
you
miss the last
kind
half of the episode to get to it, but
You kind of have taken over the whole entire game of getting into the exact... It kind of makes
The
me feel
zero
like,
shot clock that Kelly does is, it's going to be a thing.
I kind of
This
feel like
one-
you're doing it to mock, which is why I'm thinking that maybe we need to adjust the clock to 4 minutes.
No, because today I'm going to go off script right up front, but I'm still going to try to do the 5.
Your preamble?
There's a
you're
preamble.
You're going to put the preamble in with the narration?
Absolutely. So we'll see how I do on
The
this.
tequila is ready, and if you notice, this time I cut limes.
And it's a full
Wow,
friggin'
that's
bottle
nice.
of tequila.
All
So
right.
we could have lots of meat. Let's do this.
5-minute shot clock on the counter. Here we go. Get ready.
Okay.
Game of pool. Let's do it, buddy.
A Game of Pool, one of my all-time favorite shows, and this goes back to my childhood. When I was 13, 14, and 15, I had a good buddy who was in junior high school with me. We couldn't drive yet. So my mom, without my dad knowing, she would take me in the car at 6. We'd pick up my buddy, and she'd take us to a local pool hall. We would play pool as two 13-year-olds in a pool hall a couple of times a week for years. And back then, these pool halls weren't just motorcycle dudes and everyone drinking and that kind of thing. We were 2 kids with our own table, and no one gave a shit. We were just playing pool. And then my mom would probably tell my dad, yeah, they're at a movie or something. I got to go pick them up. So she would show up at 9 o'clock. We would trundle out of the pool hall, get into the car, and go back home. I did this for years.
I love this
Instead of studying, which is why I am where I am today,
Cheers.
I was playing pool and absolutely loved it. And a shout out to my mom, because I know she never told my dad, or he would have pitched a fit and beat the hell out of me. So anyway, there you go.
I'm going to send your mom a link to this episode.
There you go.
What's up, Grandma?
So, yeah.
All
So
right.
this is a fantastic episode filmed in one empty one-room pool hall with only two characters, two great characters, Jack Klugman and Jonathan Winters. Those of you of my generation know Jonathan Winters in his heyday. He was a first-class comic. These are two big names, huge names at the time that do this. So old Klugman, who is named Jesse, he's in this room alone practicing at night, and he's a fanatic about pool. And all he wants to do is play Fats, who had died 15 years earlier, but his picture's on the wall, and Klugman knows that he's only second best. Even though he beats everybody, they all say, yeah, but you're not as good as Fats. So he's sitting there just stressing out, practicing his shots. Oh, I just give a chance to play Fats once. All of a sudden in heaven, you hear this name come over a microphone. Fats, please go to so-and-so. So the next
my
thing
favorite
that
scene of
happens
the entire
is
episode.
so cool
I
is
like that.
Jonathan Winters appears in the pool hall. And Jesse is amazed, but they immediately start getting into playing pool. And they introduce themselves, and they're talking about their backgrounds. And there's banter back and forth. Fats is putting his custom pool cue together, made in St. Louis.
That's right. He does say that.
Good.
And he says the
Good.
amount.
Which costs $600.
$600, yeah.
And they start playing pool, and they're playing call shot. Those of you that play pool. And so they're racking up the points as they're making the shots, and they go game after game after game because they have to get to 300 points. Long story short, they get to $299 each, and it's the last shot. And Klugman takes a shot, misses his shot. Fats has a pretty easy straight shot in. Fats misses his shot. So Klugman's got the last shot to go. Now, I just want to mention this also. There's a couple of quips that Jonathan Winters throws in there that I thought were so poignant. And I just wanted to read those. I wanted to get them right here. You'll never get the job done with your mouth. Because Jesse was giving Fats a lot of lip, and Fats is just saying,
He is a
you
shit
know
talker
what?
for sure.
You can talk shit all day long. Show me what you can do with your cue. And the second one was, Fats says, success takes talent, luck, work, and nerve. And if you think about it in any aspect of life, those three things are required.
Yeah.
So I thought this transcended pool. So anyway,
That's actually a super cool quote.
they come to the last point. Klugman lines it up, makes the shot. He's ecstatic. And the funny thing is that Fats is at peace with himself. He's smiling. Klugman's jumping for joy. He's laying out on the pool table, and Fats says, you know what? Don't let success get to your head, because you don't know what you're going to get with this kind of success. So Klugman turns around. Fats is gone. Klugman's sitting there, and he's jazzed, and he takes the picture of Fats off the wall, and I think he throws it and breaks it. He's ecstatic. So that's the end of the pool scene. Jesse won the match. Fats is gone. Last scene, Jesse is up there at the same table surrounded by fog like he's in heaven. And he's sitting at the table waiting, and all of a sudden the microphone. Jesse, you're wanted at this pool hall in this location. So it's gone full circle. What Jonathan Winters meant is, man, when you're the champ and you check out, someone who takes your place is going to have the same internal stress. And at the end, Fats is off partying, and Jesse is now stuck, having to protect his reputation or lose. That's the end of the scene. That's the end of the episode.
You did it. You're doing it on like this master class of getting that timing exactly right. It's absolutely wild.
Even with my 1 minute of
Cheers.
intro.
No
It's
shots. Andy, the narrator, Balinksi. It's funny that having you right here. Can you give us the exit narration? Why do I say exit narration? His closing narration, please. Swipe.
Mr. Jesse Cardiff, who became a legend by beating one, but who was found out after his funeral that being the best of anything carries a special obligation to keep on improving it. Mr. Fats Brown, on the other hand, having relinquished the championship mantle, has gone fishing. These are the ground rules in the Twilight.
Okay, so ratings.
I gave it a 9. As you can tell, I loved
yeah.
it. It took me back to my childhood. I absolutely love this episode.
Andy, what's your
I
rating?
gave it a 9. I
No
swear
way.
I'm not copying. I have that written
Yeah,
down.
it's obviously
I love this episode. I thought I would have gave it a 10, but I'm kind of like reserving a 10. But this was probably the best episode matched up with that I've watched so far.
No way!
I
That's
love this
freaking
episode.
awesome.
I just like the sports side of it. There was a lot of really tense moments. I don't know. I just loved it.
There was
It
some
awesome.
great pool. Half
Yeah.
the show was
Oh,
pool
yeah.
shots.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
And there's-
love pool.
Yeah.
They did it great. They played
Yeah.
the game great. It was fun to
That
watch.
was awesome.
I gave it a 7, and I'll tell you one of the things that I liked the most about it was if you call it a twist, the twist ending, which is you want to beat the best, good. You will have to be the one that's beaten by every other punk that wants to challenge you forever, which is why we didn't go over like the dissecting it, but the part that I liked is when Fats was sweating and he was like, I see you're sweating it, whatever. And he goes, not, what do you say? He's like, not for the reasons that you think or something.
Yeah.
He says something like that
Yeah.
because he realizes he's about to be let go from his purgatory. I think that them sitting in the clouded heaven is their hell because
yeah.
they are permanently
No,
stuck.
you can tell it is. They have
he
nothing to do
can't-
but wait.
Around the
and
pool
he can't
table.
throw
Yeah.
the game. There's something about it to where if you really want it out, every time you're summoned, you could throw the game to get the hell out of there,
Yep.
but you can't. When you're the best, you can't. So when he got beat, I love that. I'm like, okay.
He was going
Swap
to
him out.
Cancun.
Yeah, he was out.
finally
Fair
was
and square,
released.
yeah.
It was awesome.
Absolutely. I really like that ending.
Yeah.
And you're right. The receptionist for heaven was really funny.
So
I love come over the loudspeaker.
So
was awesome.
one of the bits of trivia was that they originally filmed a scene with his girlfriend, but they cut it out. So there was supposed to be 3 characters in it, but there's not. So here we go, some trivia.
Fats Browns or
What's his
Hardin.
Jesse's? Yeah. Jack Klugman's favorite Twilight Zone episode out of the 4 he was in. He was in a bunch of them, and this is his favorite. Jackie Gleason was supposed to be Fats.
could-
However,
and I
he
can
turned
see
it
that.
down. He then starred later as Minnesota Fats in The Hustler. We
Yeah.
literally
We
talked about that yesterday. So Jackie Gleason was supposed to be one of only 4 Twilight Zone episodes that exclusively use, outside of Rod Serling, 2 on-screen characters. Those other 4 are Nervous Man in a $4 Room, 2, and finally the controversial and temporarily banned episode The Encounter from 1964. And we'll get into that one later because it was a little bit edgy and they had to fight to get it turned in later. George Clayton Johnson's script originally features an alternate ending in which Jesse loses the game. Seeing that Jesse is bedazzled that he had lost the life or death game and is still alive, Fats explains that he will die as a second-rate player.
Oh my God!
Guess
Can you
what, though?
imagine
What
that?
does that
In
do?
1989, when the Twilight Zone TV show came back, they remade this episode and used that ending, and it's not as good. This is a significantly better ending.
do you
That
play
one was
it-
darker and almost more angry, and I think that the original telling of it where you're stuck, you switch, and you didn't know you were going to get stuck in your purgatory.
Steve, don't you
That's
think this
it.
is a generational thing again? Rod Serling is a purist, and back then
Yep.
they were filming this for your pure methodology, concept, without all this subterfuge, without all these different darker sides. It was clean and simple, which is why
Absolutely.
we like it so much.
Absolutely.
And then they try to outdo that, and you can't.
No. And you try to redo it later, and it's not as good.
Right.
All right, and the last bit of trivia, this is one of the very few episodes of The Twilight Zone where a character breaks the 4th wall, because once he beats him, he looks directly into the camera and says, well, you saw it, didn't you? I beat the king of the hill, Fats Brown. I thought that was interesting that he
That is
actually broke
interesting.
that 4th wall. And whatever.
That is interesting.
All right, well, we are done with yours. Congratulations, sir. Let's have a sip. And no shots were awarded to any of us.
Perfect.
I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt one or both of you just so that we can hit some shots.
By the way, I kind of do interrupt you when you're doing it, and you don't take the bait. You're like, no, I'm going over.
This is the new game now. Is
No,
to
because
act is to mess
Well,
up
go
Kelly
ahead and
and
do it.
make him go over.
I'll be doing The Mirror. And The Mirror is a weird episode because, and I'll give that to you in a second. The Mirror, episode 6 of season 3, aired October 20th of 1961, directed by Don Medford and written by Rod Serling himself. Andy, the black and white narrator Balinksi, give us his intro monologue.
This is the face of Ramos Clementi, a year ago a beardless, nameless worker of the dirt, who plotted behind a mule furrowing someone else's land. Can you imagine that? And he looked up at a hot Central American sun, and he pledged the impossible. He made a vow that he would lead the avenging army against the tyranny that put the ache in his back and the anguish in his eyes. And now, 1 year later, the dream of the impossible has become a fact. In just a moment, we will look deep into this mirror and see the aftermath of a rebellion in the Twilight Zone.
Here we go, 5 minutes, starting now. So we start off in a, it's a Central American, like, villa, and the main star is played by Peter Falk. Peter Falk looks amazing. By the way, I keep looking at the clock instead of the camera. Big faux pas. Okay, so Peter Falk is playing a Fidel Castro-looking guy. Beardy, the war outfit and whatever. And he and his 4 cronies had just taken over. They'd done a revolution. And they took over the prior dictator of whatever Central American country that they're in. And so he's up there and he's like, you know why we drink? We drink to celebrate. And he goes through and he lists his 4 people. You are the quiet one. You're the loud one. You're the enforcer. And he goes through the list of his 4 best friends, which are his camaraderies, his compatriots, whatever. I'm making up shit as we go. So he's going through and kind of talking to all of them and saying why they're important. And he goes, bring in what's his name. So you can hear outside that there's,
the crowds are cheering him on.
Oh, yeah. And they're yelling his name. And he's like super pumped. Revolution. So he's like, bring him in. So they bring it. Before he does that, there's a big, huge portrait of him on the wall. The prior dictator. And he throws his glass at him. He's like, bring him in. So he brings him in. And I actually like this guy a lot after watching it a lot. And he brings him in and he goes, what do you want from me? What's his name again? It's Gaston. I want to say it's, I can't remember. Our main guy. They say his name a bunch. But anyway, it's, anyway, if you say, and he's like, Clemente. And he's like, what do you want, Clemente? What do you want? And he goes, no, I want you to suffer. I want you to have pain. And I'm going to have bees or ants eat your skin and all this other shit. Yeah. Which, by the way, that sounded fucking terrible.
Yeah.
So he's like,
put you in honey.
And put you in the sun and let the ants. And he says something so poignant. He's just like, you may take my skin because it's easy for you, because it's here and you can do it. He goes, but you're not going to take my manhood or whatever, he says, and I'll never give that to you. And then he's like, take him out to be executed. So they're taking him out and he goes, by the way, I see you found my mirror. He took down the portrait and now there's this pretty mirror on the wall. And he goes, someone gave this to me before.
An old woman, an old witch.
And said it was magic. And in the mirror's reflection, you can see your assassin. So they take him out and that's the end of it. So he comes back in and he's got his 4 friends and he's like, start the executions. And he's like, no, we can't execute him yet. Like, what do you mean? Like, by the way, I jumped ahead. He goes, you can't execute him yet. So the one guy that says you can't just go through barbarically executing people, you've got to calm down. He's the animal, not you. And so he looks into the mirror and the guy that spoke out against him that said, you can't just execute this poor dude, he sees him in the mirror holding a rifle and he turns around and the guy's just sitting there. He's like leaning there on the table and he looks back and there he's with the rifle and he looks
approaching
back and forth.
him, isn't he like walking towards him?
He's kind of walking towards him and he's got the rifle and he's like, yeah, I knew you were going to be the one. I knew you were going to do this. And if I'm getting the deaths correct, he takes him and he throws him over the balcony on the thing and he's like, I knew you were gonna kill me. This is what they said.
The shriek when he flew over the balcony was hilarious. I had to replay it.
Yeah,
it was so high pitched. It was
God, I told you, man. I'm one death down. I have 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
So the guys come in and there are 3 of his people left. And so he starts looking in the mirror and he starts really getting haunted by this mirror and he's drinking wine. And then he's got the other 2 friends, these 2 guys that are like his best compadres, that are his like enforcers.
But now they're sort of skeeved out a little because their buddy just went over the balcony.
Everyone's getting skeeved out because he's just murdering people, right? So these next 2 compadres that he's working with, by the way, I'm making up a lot of weird words. Compadres, that's not a word.
We need to brush you up on your Spanish.
I know. No, see. So he is, these 2 are in there and he looks at the mirror and he sees them both coming after him with the knife and he turns around and they're not doing shit. And once again, he sees them and he goes, you 2, go down and make sure that they actually killed the former leader or whatever. He's like, what? Do you want us to give a message to him? And he's like, no, just go down there and tell him. So he goes down. As soon as they leave the room, he picks up the phone and he goes, hey, I have 2 guys coming down to the gate. Shoot them on sight. And he's like, don't you know who I am? I am the guy, blah, blah, blah. You kill them. And he's like, okay. So he goes off. Now it's one dude that's left. And the one dude that's left is over there and he is getting really annoyed with his shit. Like, dude, you're imagining all of this. All of this you're making up. You can't you see it? It's just a mirror. And he's like, don't you see it? It's glass. It's reflective glass. It's just a mirror. And they get into it. And I'm not going to lie. I'm blanking right now on the next death.
It's the last guy in the room.
There was no poison in the wine. He saw him standing over there holding a glass of wine. And then the guy actually, we're drinking, you guys. God, I told you.
This is a cool part.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to slow it down. We're drinking. It's happening. 10 seconds is over. Okay, so his friend that had the wine he sees him in the mirror. He actually gets him a glass of wine, which I thought was my favorite part of the stories because the other 2 never really.
You're right.
They never really picked up machine guns. They never did anything. They never had knives.
Tie-in where that's what he saw in the mirror, and then he goes and grabs.
He literally grabs a glass of wine and our guy smacks it out of his hand, Peter Falk, and he's like, see, I told you. And he goes, see, you're losing your mind. And he takes a bit and he goes, look, there is no poison in this wine. I would have drank it too. There was no poison. And
he knows he's going to be killed.
Yes.
So he now starts reflecting on the falsehood of this Fidel lookalike. And he says, you will have no more friends. You have no friends.
Yep, you're done. It's all over. And he goes, you see this? He goes over to the mirror and he's like, look at this. It's just a reflection. It's all in your head. Well, our guy shoots him in the back. And my favorite scene is the actor that plays him is face to face up against the actual mirror. And he's like talking to himself. It's a really cool shot because he's like, you just caught the better man. Like, you may have shot me and killed me, but you just killed the better man. And he falls down dead. Then a priest comes in, or a father or whatever, with the neck thing, and he comes through and he's like, you got to stop these killings. They're happening all the time. And everyone is turned off by this. And he's like, they will go on for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until all of my people are gone. And he goes, no, you're your own villain.
He's completely paranoid.
He's paranoid and lunatic. So the father leaves, closes the door, and our guy Peter Falk, the Castro-looking guy, throws his gun at the mirror, shatters the mirror, and the priest is outside and he kind of listens to the door, and then you hear a gunshot. And they open the door, and our guy shot himself. And the exit narration or monologue by Mr. Rod Serling is...
Ramos Clementi, a would-be god in dungarees, strangled by an illusion. That will-o'-the-wisp mirage that dangles from the sky in front of the eyes of all ambitious men, all tyrants. And any resemblance to tyrants living or dead is hardly coincidental, whether it be here or in the Twilight Zone.
Let's go through this. This is a weird episode for me, and I've told you this on the phone. For some weird reason, every time there's a Twilight Zone marathon on TV, or just an afternoon of Twilight Zone, it doesn't have to be the New Year's Eve or 4th of July one, this is my most seen episode, which is why it's so weird that I have a hard time retelling all the deaths, because I watched it 3 times this week and I've seen it the most, and I never really liked this episode. It always became too tedious for me to just get through. When I'm studying it to pay attention, I adore this episode, and I gave it a 7.
Okay. I gave it a 7 for different reasons. I've seen it as many times as you have, incidentally, when we're watching the marathons of this. I think they did this on purpose so that the audience will appreciate the one they saw before and the one after. Because this one to me is so mediocre. There is nobody to cheer for. And that's what turns me off on this. Who's the good guy in this? The father, the padre that comes in?
It's like a little dip.
And
it's
he
like, hey,
sort of leaves and says, yeah, you've blown it, and leaves. So that guy might be the one good thing. But there's no one to cheer. There's no one to cheer for in this. It's really dark.
It's bleak.
It's violent. They're killing everybody, and there's paranoia. So I think they threw this in to say, man, if we want people to love the next 10 episodes and use this as the baseline,
throw this one out. That's actually kind of an interesting point. What's your rating?
I'm going to say 7.
Okay,
it wasn't, not super blown away, not the worst ever, just kind of mediocre.
That's what I'm saying. There are worse episodes for sure, but I still enjoy it, especially after trying to break it down and analyze it. I enjoyed it more. Here's a really interesting
accents weren't so great.
No, of course not.
The facial hair?
The facial hair was ludicrous.
Was pretty fake.
The one, I mean, you just see the glue sticking there.
Yeah.
They didn't really pay attention. Here's the thing I find interesting. The amount of trivia on the episode that you just did, I had to scrub it from 90 things to those 4 that I read. There's only 1 bit of trivia on this episode. This is kind of, I think because it's not universally appreciated. It has a 7.6 on IMDb. So right
we were
around
all
where
right
we
on.
are.
We all picked 7s. So.
The individual in this episode closely resembles Castro. Just 6 months prior to the airing of this episode was the Bay of Pigs and the attempted removal of Castro, which ended in disaster. So you don't know if they purposely made him look like it or whatever, but I just thought it was interesting trivia, and that is literally all the trivia on this episode. I have to drink these straight, so here we go.
Okay.
Slancha, sorry guys, my fault. Here we go.
Prost.
Down the hatch. Here we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Delicious.
Always burns my throat. All right. It always makes me gag and always makes my eyes water.
Tequila?
Any
the
shot,
lime.
Any kind of shot. Shots just do not work for me, but they're fun. All right.
Yeah.
So.
Well done.
I got it.
By the way.
Thank you. Not really. Okay, so now we're going to Annie. The Grave.
Right.
Season 3, Episode 7, aired October 13th, 1961, was directed by Montgomery Pittman. written by Montgomery Pittman and Rod Serling. By the way, I have a big thing. I love it when the writer wants to have some bit of the director wants to have some bit of the writing, which I think is super cool. So, Andy, the narrator Balinksi, give us Rod Serling's intro monologue.
Normally, the old man would be correct. This would be the end of the story. We've had the traditional shootout on the street, and the bad man will soon be dead. But some men of legend and folktale have been known to continue having their way even after death. The outlaw and killer Pinto Sykes was such a person. And shortly we'll see how he introduces the town and a man named Connie Miller, in particular, to the Twilight Zone.
Right, Andy, you ready?
I'm ready.
I got the clock up here. 5 minute shot clock. Let's do this.
Okay.
The Grave.
All right. The Grave is my episode. The scene opens and it's an old town western scene. You see a bunch of people kind of hiding around. It's a quiet town scene here. And a guy walks out and there's a shootout in the street. It gets right to business. There's a shootout. There's multiple shots fired. Guy keels over in the street and falls down. Let's see. You find out that this was an outlaw who was kind of plaguing the town. His name was Pinto Sykes.
Cool freaking name.
A lot of cool names in this one.
Yep.
You're also going to have other names like Johnny Rob, another one. And then there's Mothershed. There's a guy called Mothershed. If you watch it, it's just crazy. Mothershed was an older guy. So they haul this guy off, Pinto Sykes. They put him into the jail, actually. He doesn't die on the spot. A little tidbit for you. He stays alive for about 30 minutes afterwards. Yep. So then they're talking. Next scene is in the saloon, I believe, which is a bar in the Old West, if you didn't know. So they're back in the saloon. They're talking, and a guy by the name of Connie Miller walks into the saloon.
Another cool name.
Yep.
Very cool name for sure.
Played by what's his name, Dad?
Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin.
There you go.
Another top actor at the time. By the way. An A-list
He was
actor.
good, in this movie, in this episode. Actually, they're talking. It comes out that the town banded together, and it was 8 of them, but the whole town was behind them. They all kind of wanted this guy dead because he was an outlaw and just plagued them. So they don't really know who shot him. Actually, they all fired shots. They were all terrible shots, but someone got the job done.
Yeah.
Steve, you had a bit there?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that. Let's
You thought I was trying to derail you for a second round of shots?
I don't know.
Hold on, we can do that.
One of the quotes they're talking about this. One of the quotes is, "No one's bragging that they did. No, sir. No one's taking credit for that piece of gunplay." I just that is such a crazy line. And
no one's
funny.
taking credit for that piece of gunplay.
That piece of gunplay.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is good. So let's see. Let's keep going. They're talking about it. This the first big pop is the door busts open of the saloon. They all spin around, draw their weapons, and who is it? It's Ione. That was the sister of the guy who died, Pinto Sykes. Sister of Pinto Sykes. She comes in. She gets a bottle of rye. Let's see. Man, I got my thing messed up here. She orders a bottle of rye. They're like, "Oh, is that for your dad, Ione?" She's like, "No, there, mister. It's from me." Takes it. Oh, she does this evil laugh when she walks out of the saloon. She's
Wicked
like,
maniacal
that didn't sound
laugh.
like it. It was an evil laugh. I'm like, that was weird. They're all kind of start to give Connie, which is the guy who was trying to go after and kill the outlaw
Sykes.
Pinto Sykes. Oh God, yeah, I'm not doing good on time. They're all kind of giving him crap. This one guy starts giving him crap. His name was this is important, I swear. Not really. Johnny Rob starts giving him crap. He's this little he's the least manly of all of them.
Yeah.
Connie whips around and backhands him right in the face because he's talking crap about him. And it was insane. And then Johnny Rob's kind of reeling back from being slapped in the face, and then he's over there. He's like, "I didn't really mean it, Connie. I didn't. I swear." He pulls out his guitar. He starts strumming. He has like this little section. He's like, "Oh, I didn't. Dogs and kids like me, Connie. I don't know why." And I wasn't trying. And then he does that for a little bit, I swear. You have to see the episode. And
I was hoping you were going to do the whole thing like that.
I could, but then he just like pulls out his guitar for some reason and is talking to him. I'm like,
Have you ever seen a Western where anybody at the bar pulls out a guitar?
I haven't. No, that's
have
why I
never
thought
in
it
my
was
life-
weird.
And the guitar was good, but his singing sucked.
Did he sing even, or was he just
singing his words to it? He was strumming a couple of lyrics to this thing. And I thought, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
The whole thing was
just
weird.
out of the, I was like, are we going to start a musical here? What's
Yeah,
going on?
yeah.
He's like, I didn't mean that, but he said, I would be willing to bet for my $20 gold piece that this little guy had,
By
Johnny
the way,
Robb.
we're drinking shots.
We're doing another
Oh my
round.
god! I literally
This
halfway
episode,
through.
I said we were going to try to do it efficiently, and we immediately.
I'm like halfway
from the
through.
Yeah,
beginning.
you've just done the intro.
Yeah,
and
go
we're,
ahead. All right.
I didn't think I was going to go over on this one.
Okay, keep going. Okay. Yeah, you.
They say
We're way over this one. All right, go ahead. Now you can casually do it.
I don't know why that happens.
I do. But keep going.
Keep going. We-
I'm the last person to go though, so I have the most time for my drinks.
You do.
To kick
That's what I'm
in.
saying. Continue
I think
on
that's
the story
why.
because the ending. There's a lot to talk about in this
There
episode.
is.
So
There
go
is.
for it.
So anyway, they try to make a bet. They say, Connie, we bet that you wouldn't go to this guy's grave and visit his grave tonight. We think you're going to chicken out.
We've gone 5 minutes and we haven't got to the
I
grave
know.
bit yet.
This is amazing.
This
is
may
why
be a whole nother
This is why the
episode.
three of us. This is incredible. All right, go. You're
Time
good.
management. Was that always one of your
I'm
strong
gonna do
points?
it.
Andy?
I love it.
This is literally going to be a 10-minute retelling.
Oh my
Yeah,
I
God.
exactly.
can't
But
do
that's okay
that.
because you literally brought out a prop to help with the scene. So
Yes.
I think we're all good. You're
A
good.
10-minute
Continue on.
retelling.
Yeah, keep going. You're good.
So anyway, a $20 gold piece that's worth about $745 in today's
You looked
money.
it up. That's part of my trivia,
Oh, was
dickhead.
it really?
I hate it
Sorry.
when you ruin my trivia.
Sorry, I love to do that,
You've
though.
done that.
Yeah.
Stop looking up currency because that's the.
I love to look up the currency.
So
I'm
do I.
like, how much was that? So they make a bet.
Oh, it's
They
worth
said-
a shot, I guess.
Oh, we'll be.
They say how are we going to know that you did this, Connie, and you didn't just chicken out? And so this guy says, I know, take my Bowie knife with you. If you stick it in the grave, the dirt of the grave, then we'll know that you went there and you actually got there. That was a pretty good idea, I thought. Connie goes out there. He runs into, guess who? Ione again. She's out there. She downed her bottle of rye, almost all of it actually. She was a little twisted.
Tell you what, I actually love her role in this.
I don't really
Yeah.
understand her role.
That's why I love it so much.
I don't
You've
really
got this
understand
little wave
her role.
of a girl dressed in a cloak who just appears and disappears.
And she's creepy.
Can I
She starts
suggest-
doing this
okay,
laugh.
before
when
we
she
get
leaves.
into the twist, let's take our shots now because
we may have more shots
Might
if it's
as well.
10
There can't be
minutes.
more.
There's
Is there a second penalty? Oh
there
my
very
God.
well could be.
Okay, Andy,
This
if
could
you
be a
need another
first.
line,
This, no,
You're good?
it's
I
okay.
will
No.
be alive.
This is
all right.
Keep
Sorry,
talking.
but we butchered this one so badly. Cheers.
I thought.
Again.
All right, it's not as easy as it looks. Okay, people,
The shots.
both. No,
Oh,
the
the
retelling.
See, there we go again. It's just a gag reflex I have.
The retellings aren't as easy as they look. Okay.
No, it's not. All right, go ahead. All right.
He makes it out to the grave, runs into Ione. She creeps him out. She's like, I bet you won't go up there. Her words are a little sloshing now. She leaves. She does a weird little evil laugh. She's like,
She's super weird.
it's incredibly weird. He goes up there with his Bowie knife. He goes to the grave. He kind of slowly presses the knife into the grave dirt. He looks at it. He's like, all right, well, that was fine. That went okay. And then he goes like this. He sticks it into the grave. He goes to leave, and then his body jerks down, and the scene ends, and you're like, what the heck happened?
The camera is oddly focused on like knee level up
It is a great photographic piece.
because you have no idea what
Yeah.
the hell just happened. You're right. You don't know what just happened.
You don't really know.
And the way he fell, I'll tell you, Lee Marvin is a great actor. After he plunges it in, he smacks himself on the ground. That had to have hurt when he did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Because
right.
he hits the ground running.
Oh yeah.
Comes to the next thing, they're like, where is he? Connie Miller left his horse here overnight. I didn't know you could do that. It's not like you leave your car at the bar overnight. He leaves his horse. Doesn't the thing need
You
water
got
or whatever?
parking
Yeah.
limits.
See, this is why mine goes so long.
Well, because of Tesla charging stations, you have horse charging stations. I
Yeah.
got you. You're good. Keep going.
All right, I'll
Where do you
work
put
on
the
it.
charger? Never mind.
That was good.
Sorry.
A group of them go back to the grave site, and they see Connie Miller slumped over. He's dead. And they all start formulating like what could have happened. And one guy says, "No, I'll tell you what happened." He just comes up with this. Well, it's a story nonetheless. He says, "Yep, he actually stabbed his knife in there, but it caught on his coattail. He thought something was going on, and he had a heart attack." Basically, is what he said.
The wind blew his coat.
Yeah, he says the wind
without him knowing it.
The other chick, Ione, is there. She kind of debunks that story because she says, "Which way is the wind going? It's going the same as it was today, and everything's going that way." So she debunks it. She says, "I'm not so sure, you guys. Maybe my brother reached up and grabbed him and killed him out of the grave."
Killed him.
Just
I like how
like
you use that
predicted.
It's crazy. And that is the ending, I believe. I can go on for another 5 minutes if you need me to, but...
No, I think we got it. Andy, the black and white version of you, can you give us the closing Rod Serling narration?
Final comment, you take with this a grain of salt or a shovel full of earth, if that's what you prefer, as shadow or substance. We leave it up to you. And for any further research, check under G for ghosts in the Twilight Zone.
By the way, this is one of those things. He told me this one of the first times I met you is that you play guitar, which I wish... It's one of my things, if I could sell my soul, that would be one of the ones I wish I could do. And since we've already butchered this episode and we're definitely inebriated... Oh...
Yeah.
Can you do some good picking while I give my rating and my opinions on it?
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay, ready? Here we go. Here's my turn. So I gave this a very solid 7. This is a very boring day for me. Everything was a 7. I just thought they were fun, but kind of, not to be a dick, a little forgettable. I liked all the actors in it. It was a lot of fun. Except the thing that makes it closer to an 8 than some others is I don't really understand. What the hell? Ione. What is she? Okay, so first of all, what's your rating?
I gave it an 8.
Okay.
And I loved her role in this because she's the mystery in all this. She's talking to the dead. Her brother, the gangster, is talking to her. She actually brings the plate to him at the end of food.
Right.
Because he wants food. And she just rolls with it. It's just like it happens every day to her. And she throws all these other guys off. She throws Lee Marvin completely off as she's walking down from the grave.
I actually think she's crucial to this.
Oh, she is.
Because she's playing that other side of
she's
there's
a medium.
some sort of there's
she's
some sort of he's a
talking to the
ghost, he's
dead.
supernatural. She's plotting that because the guys don't want to believe that.
If I rated it a 7, it's probably closer to an 8. I should fix my rating. It's an 8, and it's only because of her role. Because if it wasn't, the twist factor, let's just go through some trivia real quick because it does relate to the opinion here. This episode was based on a popular urban legend and apparently goes back to 1980, a short story where the countries represent locals. I thought that was interesting that it was kind of based on something that was an urban legend. You forget the rest of it. I butchered it anyway, but the idea that it was based on urban legend is kind of cool. This one I thought you would appreciate. This was initially intended to be in season 2, but they pushed it back to season 3. And then here's the big part, and we'll dissect this here in short time. They show that Lionheart's hypothesis about Connie's death was incorrect when it was seen shot that the wind blows her cloak away from Pinto's grave while she stands at the same spot that Connie died at. In fact, while Connie stands at the grave, go back and rewatch this episode because they're spot on accurate. Before he kneels to plant Bowie's knife, it's seen that his coat is also blowing away from the grave.
Right.
So let's just talk. I have no more trivia and nothing else to bring. What the hell happened? Because that's all accurate. The wind was never blowing in the direction where he would have stabbed the thing.
I think it's a real far shot. I mean, but I think that's what makes this episode pretty darn good is you don't know for sure. It's a cliffhanger.
And that's
why don't we take it for granted that the simple answer is the real one in all the Twilight Zones?
This is what you always say?
The guy from the dead, the gangster raised up out of the dead and killed him. To me, it's the simple answer is that's what happened. That's the mystery.
I have a difference of opinion.
He had a heart attack on the grave.
I think the simple answer is he scared himself to death.
He did.
But the wind doesn't make sense. Why did it blow over and whatever?
Right. He had a heavy diet of bacon too, so he had clogged arteries. So
that could be. Obviously. But this is the point is, it's always every time I try to dissect an episode, I go back to what you said. Twilight Zone is surface level. Don't dissect it. It's what it's saying. This one, there is no clear answer. So I highly recommend, if you haven't seen this episode, to go and watch it and get your own opinion, because there is no real answer at the end of this. The trivia says so. Every interview I've ever read says that there is no real answer to what the hell happened.
Isn't that the point?
What happened?
Of a mystery ending like that is
An
leave it up to
ambiguous ending?
each viewer to decide.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought was interesting is watch this twice, and when you watch the shots at the very beginning, when the 8 guys are lined up around him like a circular firing squad to kill this dude, you actually see the bullets hitting the post.
The ground, yeah.
So these guys are either the very worst shots
Yeah, they
ever
were.
in a Western,
And
or they didn't want to kill the guy except for one.
I have never thought about the idea that maybe it was intentional, because if you rewatch this, they're horrible, and they actually admit that. They're like,
yeah, well, they say like they admitted we're all terrible shots, and they were just townspeople, and there was some mayor or something that was like, you guys got to put on your big boy pants if you want this guy dead, and you got to kill him.
Well, and remember, the gangster won because he's in the bar coming out, and Lee Marvin is supposedly out hunting for this guy for weeks. And they actually say, yeah, the gangster told us that when he slowed down, he was hoping you would catch him. You stopped so you wouldn't catch him.
Yeah.
Lee Marvin was a wimp. Lee Marvin was afraid of this guy.
Lee Marvin's character is a fascinating one in the Twilight Zone altogether, because they said, like, and I know we're going on long, but they said he literally, the bad guy, was on the run and was in El Paso and slowed down, and so did Lee Marvin.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He was literally saying, like,
he stopped.
I slowed down, he slowed down, almost like Lee Marvin loved the idea of the chase, but had no intention of finishing the run, which is why the baiting and the shit talking in the bar is so important. Rewatch it a second time, and everything makes more sense. Like,
it's an amazing, it's a fun episode.
And it's a really, which is why I gave it a 7, but it's definitely closer to an 8. I may just be officially changing it to an 8, because this is one of those ones you think about afterwards, because it didn't have a definitive ending, but it definitely had a definitive point. The point is, who the hell knows what happened? It's just wildly interesting. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this episode, and thank you, Andy, for showing up. Dad, this was awesome. Cheers to everybody. We had double shots this time. I butchered mine. You went way over in yours. I'm glad about
10
that.
10 minutes. Yeah.
Can you play us out, Andy?
Sure. Outro? Yeah, you got it.
Let's just
Stick
see.
with Western.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on the Highlight Zone After Hours.
See that
I
horse.
have been Steve.
This is Kelly.
I'm Andy.
Riding into the sunset.
We will see you in Phoenix Fan Fusion June 7th at 1 or 1:30? It's on the freaking wall. It's right at 1:30.
And don't forget, Paramount Plus, man.
Oh,
if you want to
keep
watch
playing.
these things.
Absolutely, Paramount Plus. Our next episode, Andy's daughter and Fitz is back again to retell one of the most famous episodes, A Good Life.
A repeat of Fitz with one of the best shows ever, which I hate more than anything
I know,
else.
he hates this episode.
To everyone,
Cheers.
to the Highlight Zone.
Later,
And the
everybody.
Twilight Zone.
Thank you, Andy.
Perfect.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where is this place and when?
The answer is it doesn't make any difference.
Can you say eggs?
Steve is.